Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news and transfer news and takeover news update show. We're going to be talking about the win against Barcelona. We're going to be talking about I can't think of the word. Stupendous. What's the word? Tremendous job that Erik Ten Hag is doing at Manchester United. We're going to talk about Casemiro. We're going to talk about Lisandro Martinez. We're going to talk about Varane being the backbone of the United squad. We're going to talk about a bit transfer news. Fabrizio Romano's came up with a little bit of an update of people United are interested in. We're going to talk about the Newcastle game, the preview, the games coming up, where United are at. And the main talking point, the title of this video is, will Ten Hag be unstoppable if we get Qatar? If Qatar are the new owners, in my opinion, Ten Hag is unstoppable. Like, I genuinely believe Qatar that's all we need, or new owners like Qatar who will back Ten Hag for this guy to be unstoppable. Because what I think he's done with this squad so far, I think he's absolutely fantastic. The way we played against Barcelona, fantastic. We spoke in my video earlier today, 5 things we learned about what he did at half time. Lisandro Martinez said, I can't tell you what he did at half time. It was bad, essentially. And all of that. So we're going to dive straight into the video, but please do smash that like button. Of course, go ahead and subscribe down below if you're new, and share the video as well. Qatar will let Ten Hag be in charge of transfer, says Gaz. And I think this is an important thing, because we could get Qatar in and they could go and give Ten Hag a load of money. But we've seen what Todd Boehly's done with Chelsea, where Chelsea have had a lot of money spent, but it's like, it's obviously, is it people that Tuchel wanted? Is it people that Potter wanted? Or is it people that Todd Boehly's kind of been as a football fan? They're good. Arsenal want them. They must be good. Let's go and take them to Chelsea. Mudryk, was Chelsea ever interested in Mudryk until he was close to going to Arsenal? Probably not. I don't think Chelsea were aware of Mudryk until they found out it was close to going to Arsenal. I think that's been the case with a lot of Chelsea signings, where they kind of, I just think the most important thing is we get new owners that will spend the money for Ten Hag, but also we've got to take into account, will Qatar plan strategically when they're doing a transfer plan? Are they going to be going, we're going to buy the players that Ten Hag wants, we're going to buy the players that the scouts pick out for Ten Hag's system, rather than the players that they want? Because Todd Boehly spends all this money at Chelsea, but he's just signing the players he wants. He's like, this player's good, this player's good, this player's good, I like him. And I think that Chelsea will gel occasionally, but I think Todd Boehly needs to calm down on the quantity of spend and really look at the quality of spend, because we saw, before last year. So if we look at January 2022, if we look at January 2012 to January 2022, no team of football had a higher net spend than United. And we know what we did under Edward, but we spent all that money and we had absolute crap for it. And, it's not always just about spending money, but it's about, backing the manager, actually connecting well with the manager. And the most important thing with new owners is that they work with the manager, because if you want success on the pitch, it's not always about the money you have to spend. I think Qatar having the money to spend is important, but it's also, look at Brighton, look at Brentford, look at Benfica. It's about actually looking and understanding the manager's philosophy, what he wants, getting the best scouts in, and making sure you get the manager that they want. And with Qatar being footballing people, with Qatar being big fans of United, and if you look at Middle Eastern ownership in football, it's been very impressive, how PSG's been run, how Man City's been run. They are footballing people, they are passionate about people. I do believe that Qatar would be good for Ten Hag. I do believe that in terms of, I think that Ten Hag could be unstoppable with Qatar. I really do. I don't know what you think. I don't know if you think there's more to it than just new ownership. Ten Hag's going to need this and that. But for me, I think new ownership backs Ten Hag is unstoppable. I don't know what your thoughts is, but I generally think if we've got Qatar, he's unstoppable. I think, what he's doing now with the squad we have, I think it's absolutely incredible as well. Big up, people. How is everybody doing? Let me know your thoughts on the Barcelona game, of course, yesterday, and how you've been feeling since Barcelona. Anyone in the chat go to the game yesterday? If you did, let me know what Old Trafford was like as well. Erik Ten Hag has to be the main authority on and off the pitch. However, whoever the new owners are, the progress with the play and transfer targets is all for him. 100% agree. It's all about making sure that Ten Hag is still the guy who knows what he wants in and what he wants out, and he's got the final say. And remember, we spoke about this on the channel back in April time. But remember, Erik Ten Hag said to John Murty, don't accept the job on 3 conditions. When Erik Ten Hag got offered the job, he didn't doody-darly and take the job right away. Ten Hag said to United, I will only offer the job on one of the following 3 conditions. Okay, he said, A, you let me work closely with the youth academy. B, you let me have the final say on who gets a new contract and you do not give anyone a new contract behind my back. And D, I have the final say and I have to give the green light if you buy or sell a player. Ten Hag said he'll only take the job if they give him the green light on who he buy and sell. That's what he said to the board. If he has the final say in contracts, because remember at the start of the season, we were trying to give Fred, Luke Shaw, De Gea, Delo and Rashford all a new contract at the beginning of the season. And Ten Hag said they've been good for 1 month. Let's see how they are in 6 months. We've got time. We can extend the contract for a year. Just we can't reward them off 1 month's good form. They've got to show me over a 6-month period they deserve that new contract. And that's what he's done. And obviously the chance to work closely with the youth academy, which he's done. We've seen Kobe Mainoo get some minutes. We've seen Garnacho get some minutes, especially. Pelestri's had chances. Zidane Iqbal's had chances. Even Charlie Savage came on at one point as well. But I think, Kobe Mainoo and Garnacho are the ones that Ten Hag looks like he's taken a particular liking to. And we know what Ten Hag is like. He likes young players. I'm excited. I will say this now. I'm very excited to see what Amad Diallo does when he gets back from loan. Amad Diallo's been really good lately. Mejbri's had some good games as of late as well. Got Alvaro Fernandez, the left back, out on loan. That's impressive. I also think, I was thinking now, someone said to me actually the other day, like, Alice, which youth academy player do you see coming through at United next? And I would say keep an eye on Marc Jurado, because Romano's saying, despite Ten Hag liking Delo, United have been in and about scouting some right backs. And Romano's come out and confirmed that Ten Hag has been scouting some right backs. He really likes Jeremy Frimpong of Bayern Leverkusen, and we'll get into what Romano said in a minute. But I do think as well, maybe Marc Jurado from the youth academy, a young right back, someone I could see potentially getting a chance at Manchester United. I don't know what your thoughts are, but we know that Ten Hag wants to work closely with the youth academy, and that's important to Ten Hag. And I think new owners, it's about backing Ten Hag and buying him who he wants, but also working closely with Ten Hag as well. And we've seen what Qatari have done at PSG, also not really managers of the heart of their transfer policy. At the heart of the transfer policy, and that is a good point. I think the Middle Eastern ownership has been good, but I think PSG, they have done big signings, and I do think that a rebuild, it's not always about the big Galactico signings, your Neymar, your Mbappe's. It's about building a team, which is something to that is. And Alice, haven't Qatar already said they got United sources in Qatar basically saying this is, obviously we don't know 100% who the new owners will be. Like the Glazers could stay, it could be Sir Jim, it could be Qatar, it could be someone we've not spoken about. It's a difficult place because the people in Qatar are very much acting like they are going to be the next owners of United, very much confident it's going to happen. Qatari sources saying the bid was over before it was begun. As soon as Qatar went in for United, they won't be matched and all of that. So I think Qatar will be the next owners, and if that is the case, as the title of this video, if Qatar are the new owners, I generally believe Ten Hag is unstoppable, because I think that's all we need to get to the top. But there has been some updates on new ownership. Again, Qatari sources very confident that Qatar are going to get it, but we had good sources who were very confident that Jong would be a United player, and Jong was at Old Trafford yesterday, and he weren't in the red kit, he was in that horrible Barcelona kit. So we have to be careful with an extent of what we're told, because we do get clickbait and lied to by the media, but there is the feeling by very good journalists, by very strong journalists, that Qatar will be the next owners. We know the second round of bidding is in. That's coming ahead, and we just have to say, keep your Mike Keegan notifications on Twitter, because I'm sure if anything breaks, he will be the guy to 100% break the news. I mean, he knows his stuff when it comes to that as well. Keep smashing the likes, people, and of course subscribe down below as well. Ten Hag is a winner, absolute winner as well. If you look at the quote on my screen, Casemiro said on Ten Hag, he demands a lot from us. He strives for perfection. It's important for a manager to be obsessed with winning and nothing less than that. Ten Hag is obsessed with winning people. Like, Robin van Persie interviewed Ten Hag a couple of days ago and was like, wow, what a job you're doing at United, 6 months in, 5 points off top, you're in a final with that. And Ten Hag said, enough of the compliments, Robin. I haven't won anything yet. Ten Hag's being complimented and told he's doing a really good job. And Ten Hag don't want to know. Ten Hag's not sitting here smiling, going, oh, everyone thinks I'm doing a good job. That's good enough for me. In a top 4 race, no trophies. Ollie, 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 Ollie. Ten Hag's like, no, I ain't doing a good job unless I win the trophies. And that is the standard of manager that you need at United. Because Ollie, I love you, Ollie, but Ollie thinks that finishing second place and not winning a trophy is good. Ollie thinks that getting in the top 4 is good. Ten Hag was like, no, I could finish second, I could be 1 point behind Arsenal, but if I don't win a trophy, I've got nothing to prove for it. It's not a good season. And that's where United need to be. And this is one thing Ronaldo got spot on. once. He did an interview, and this was before the Piers Morgan interview, where he said the standards of United changed. When he was at United, he had to finish in the top 3 and win a trophy, or it was a shocking season. Now United is all about, if you scrape 4th, it's a good season. And Ten Hag wants to change the mentality from being a team that scrapes 4th and celebrate finishing in the Champions League, and actually wants to make us a team that celebrates trophies, not 4th place. It's about trophies. It's about success, which doesn't matter if we're 2 points off Arsenal, let's just say, in the future. It doesn't matter if we don't win the trophy, if we don't win the league. And I really like and admire Ten Hag's mentality towards that as well. Alice, hi Alice, glory days will be back. Ten Hag is a magician. Ten Hag is an absolute magician. I feel like if you are falling in love with Ten Hag, because I am falling in love with Ten Hag. I'm still busy from last night. Anyone feel the same? Yeah, people, tell me how you're feeling. And Ten Hag was clapping the fans at the end when they were singing Glazers Out. Clap Ten Hag for that. Big up. I have to say, I loved how there was Qatari flags in the stadium. I loved how there were Glazer Out banners in the stadium. And I loved the Frenkie chants. What's the score? Frenkie, what's the score? I have to say, I wish I was at Old Trafford, but from what I've seen and people I've spoke to is at Old Trafford, the atmosphere yesterday was electric. And they said that Old Trafford was the 12th man for United last night. Apparently, it was absolutely fantastic as well. And there has to be an evolution from the Qatari PSG transfer policy. The Galactico stuff has never worked. I agree. And I think that's something Man United might have learnt the hard way. I think United's hopeful approach will be we sign what's necessary, not these big signings as well. And the guy De Jong looked good last night. Imagine him with Casemiro. Oh my fucking God, I would dream. We will talk about De Jong, because the question is, does De Jong regret staying? Does De Jong want to join Ten Hag now? There's conflicting reports that De Jong, likes Ten Hag and, was convinced, likes the look of the Man United project. And there's other reports basically saying that De Jong will not leave Barcelona. I'll be honest, I do not want to talk about De Jong properly until the summer. I am only bringing up De Jong in today's video for the pure sense of we played him last night. Unless there's big news on De Jong, I ain't going to talk about him until the summer, because I am fed up of that man's name. Bruno kicking the ball at him. It actually felt like needed. I know it wasn't De Jong's fault. It was Barcelona's fault, and he got mucked about. But Bruno kicking the ball at him, I was like, thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Bruno. That is my anger and rage being let out. But we will talk about De Jong a little bit later. But I think with De Jong, it's something that I think it could happen. I don't want to sit here and speak loads about De Jong. I think that could happen. I think that Barcelona has got some FFP issues. Barcelona really do need to sell some players, whether it be De Jong or not. I'm not sure. I think Barca need to sort that out. They do need to either get rid of De Jong or keep him. I think he's been good for Barca, so I can't see him leaving. But I think it's something that would depend on Barca's financials. But I do think if the way we're going, potentially finishing in the Champions League, we would be a more attractive move for De Jong as well. If Yassim is the driving force behind the Qatar takeover, then I don't think United will be operating about the same way as PSG. I think that I'm hoping that United would operate with the manager being the number one priority as well. And I think Erik Ten Hag will have his work cut out with FFP, will make it difficult to bring in everyone he needs. But in 2-3 seasons like that, he'll be unstoppable. Potentially, I think if we finish in the top 4 and we're reportedly going to get 25 million from McTominay, 25 million from Maguire, 25 million for Dean Henderson, and some money for Marshall and Donny. If we are smart, if we do have Qatar in, and Qatar are smart about transfers, I do think there's a sense of we could maybe raise 100 million and out. Money off the wage bill. We could potentially finishing in the top 4. We could have a big spend in the summer, but we've got to be careful with FFP. But we see what Chelsea are doing. If United really wants to take a risk, they could do this long contract thing, but I don't think that's smart. I think Chelsea are losing. All their players aren't playing well, and they've got them super long contracts. It's a massive risk, and I think Chelsea will turn it around. But to have players on contracts that long, if they want to get rid of them, it's just difficult as well. Ten Hag turned things around a lot, especially that he's not had one full season and still not got every player he wants. 100%. That's why I said, if the Qatar are the new owners, Ten Hag will be unstoppable. Because imagine what he does when he's got more time to implement his system, for players to understand the system, more players that he wants in. Imagine what he would do if he's doing so well right now. Just imagine what he'd do. Kiddo says we could deserve Qatar, and I'll tell you one thing, we deserve someone that's not the Glazers as well. We're talking to Mark Gerardo. I'm a little bit behind on the chat. It'll be difficult for young fullbacks to break in our current lot and stay fit on form. 100%. The fullbacks have been good as well. But I have to say, Gerardo and Alvaro, those fullbacks, and they came at the same time as Garnacho. The little Spanish raid Man United did 2-3 summers ago was really, really good. Really, really good. Keep smashing the likes, people. I'm just going to scroll further down the chat as I'm like 5 minutes behind on the live chat as well. Talking about Ten Hag standards being another level. Ollie is just good vibes. Everything was big laugh under Ollie. And I liked Ollie. He was a nice guy, and the players liked him until they didn't. And he was a nice guy, and I think after Jose, that nice guy thing was nice. It was a bit of fresh air. But I think Ollie should have just been an interim manager for 6 months to the end of the season, and then I think we should have got someone serious. But everything happens for a reason. Maybe if we hadn't have got Ollie, we'd have had another shit manager, and maybe we'd be sacking that shit manager now and wouldn't have Ten Hag. I always try and look at it that way. But Ollie was just not serious for United. His standards weren't serious enough. His McFred love, if you're playing McFred, you can't expect United to win. Ten Hag played McFred versus Brighton, first game of the season. First game of the season, Ten Hag played McFred versus Brighton. Have we seen McFred play together since? No. We've seen McTominay and Eriksen. We've seen Fred and Casemiro. We've seen Fred and Eriksen. We've seen Casemiro and McTominay. But we've not seen McFred start a game since, because it took Ten Hag one game of watching McFred to be like, this is shit. This isn't working. These midfielders don't complement each other. But week in, week out under Ollie, we had to watch it, and it was absolutely, absolutely horrible as well. I hope Casemiro's 100% fit for the final. He wasn't moving well after Lewandowski challenge. I have to say, we will talk about Rashford's injury and Casemiro. I tell you what, I'll be really upset if there's an injury to Rashford. Rashford was seen limping off after. Actually, I'll show you this if I can find it. I think I liked it. I think I liked the video, if I can find it here. But Rashford does not look good, people. I don't think Rashford's going to play in the final. I think he could maybe be on the bench, but I think he's going to be out. If I zoom out a bit, I don't know if you can see that here, but that's Rashford there in the hood. He's not walking quite right there. You can see it behind Sancho. He's limping a bit. The sound's annoying. Let me get rid of the sound. But Rashford's got his hood up and he's limping. He's not walking quite right. And I'm hoping it will be like that game a couple of weeks ago where we had to take Rashford off early as a precautionary, and I'm hoping it's just a dead leg. But you just don't know. You don't know, and I think the last thing we want is a Rashford injury. I think what have I done? I don't want to print that. My computer's frozen. Stop it. There we go. Last thing we want is a Rashford injury or Casemiro injury. I think, we've seen, Sabitzer and Fred, they did their thing. They got us through Leicester in the second half. But we've seen how important Casemiro is. But I do worry, if Rashford is out, where do the goals come from? We're so reliant on Rashford goals. We're so reliant on Rashford in moments. I think the final is a moments game in a weird sense of, if you take your chances, you take your moment, it's a big stage. And yes, Man United are capable of winning the final without Marcus Rashford 100%. But I think it's almost Rashford and Casemiro are the two biggest misses for United at the moment. And that is something I'm worried about as well. But hopefully it'll be all right as well. Alice, how would you feel if Rashford backs Mason return? Would that tarnish Rashford for you? I mean, I'm not interested in talking about that, to be honest. We don't know what's happened. Only Mason and Harriet know what's happened. It's something for next summer. We've got our season to focus on, and Man United will make the decision on Mason in the summer. He'll probably come back. He'll probably be sold. I think every Man United player will want to speak to Mason and hear his side of the story. We don't know what's gone on, but I don't think he'll be a United player next season. And, I'm not going to judge someone for backing Mason, and I'm not going to judge someone for not backing Mason. As long as you're not someone who says vile things on the internet, like the girl's a liar, F the girl, and sends abuse to the girl, everyone's allowed their own opinion because we don't know the facts. But personally, I heard those voice notes. I don't think those audio recordings can be unheard. And what I heard wasn't nice. It could be explained, and there could be a big explanation about it. And he is back with Harriet, but for me, it's not very nice to hear what we heard as well. I'll give Frenkie de Jong links credibility once I hear it from Romano. And I think that's the thing. I think unless there's a lot of Frenkie de Jong links, but unless they really come from someone we know or we're aware of, it's something that I don't want to talk about until the summer. I think that you're thinking, okay, Man U played Barcelona. We need a page filler. Let's go and talk about Frenkie de Jong to United. I think that's probably something to do with the Frenkie de Jong links going on at the moment as well. News on the takeover has gone in quite quiet. Yeah, that's because right now, basically, they're looking at the highest bidders and they're inviting them to look at things and make a second bid. I'm sure that news on the takeover will come out of nowhere. I think we'll hear about Qatar second bid out of nowhere, Jim Ratcliffe second bid out of nowhere as well. I think we'll hear stuff come out of nowhere as well. RJ says I want Glazers out already, 100%. Smash the like button if you want Glazers out. Gaz says, thank God we didn't get Conte or Poch. No, I agree with you there. And when the Qatar takeover, Alice will be dressed as a sheikh on her watch-alongs. Honestly, once the Glazers go, there will be a good watch-along. Our foundation at the back is solid between Casemiro, the whole backline, and David De Gea has so much confidence in them all. And Barcelona won us the game. but not Barcelona. The defense won us the game. I saw a statistic somewhere, and it was like, I'll see if I can find it. I think Barcelona had 0.40 expected goals. I think they had 0.40 expected goals, non-penalty expected goals. If I can find it, I'm trying to see it. MPXG. I saw a thing, but I can't remember where it was now. But I saw a statistic that said that Barcelona, who have been one of the best teams in Europe this season, had basically, without the penalty, would have had an expected goals of 0.4. Just shows how the defense shut them out. And if you look at this statistic here, you'll see that, look, Man United, but this is Barcelona's recent games, and only Man United it's not been a win. It just shows the level United are at, and I think they've been fantastic. And I tweeted this last night. I said Barcelona unbeaten in 18 games and only conceded 7 goals this season in La Liga. The spirit of the players to come from 1-0 down and turn it around and dominate the second half. They could actually win 3 trophies this season. I have to say, I think people underestimate how good Barcelona have been this season as well. But I do want to crack on. I do want to get to the news. Prince says, do you think the Glazers will sell? 100%. It would be the career suicide if the Glazers didn't sell United. It would be 100% career suicide if the Glazers didn't sell United, because we saw how the stock price went down in 12% because some stories came out that they might stay. We know they've had big offers from Qatar. We know Qatar are going to give them like 5 billion. If you're saying no to 5 billion and keeping the club, after you seeing the effect that the sale has on the price of the club and seeing the effect that the talks of the Glazers staying has on the stock price, and 17 years of anger with fans who've been here 17 years, Darcy Glazer wants out, Kevin Glazer wants out. If Joel really decided to fucking stay, it would cost him. Because yes, things are going well under Ten Hag, but the fans will be fuming. There will be more protests. It will cost them more money. They don't have the money to stay at United. They don't have the money to run at United. And for me, I think the Glazers will have to go. I think they don't want to, but I think they'll have to go because I believe it would generally be business suicide. I think that they won't be the money they're getting offered from Qatar, the money they're getting offered at the moment. I don't think they could get that again for a long while. I think that they're comfortably getting multiple bids over 4 billion, which is crazy. I don't think they're going to get much more. And I think they're just being greedy. And I think, I'll be honest, I think the news coming out that the Glazers might stay, and I think the news coming out that the Glazers want a partial sale and they're not open to the full sale, I think it's Glazer tactics. I generally and personally believe that the Glazers know that Qatar could bid 6, 7, 8 billion if they wanted. And I think the Glazers are deliberately telling journalists that they would prefer to stay at the club, to tweet out stories, to try and kind of psychologically play with Qatar to up their bid. That's my general and honest opinion. I think it's a psychological game with the Glazers to get Qatar to up their bid by putting out these stories that they want to stay. Because they know that Qatar could bid more than they've bid to see if they can get more money for the club. They want to milk as much money out of the club as they can. I think that they are going to sell. We heard reports from Qatar saying Qatar wouldn't go in for United if they didn't think the Glazers were serious about selling. I think they will sell. I think they'd be stupid not to sell. And I do think a lot of this talk, in my opinion, is a negotiation tactic of the Glazers. But obviously, we have to wait and see what happens. Osimhen and De Jong in the summer would be ideal. Let me know in the chat, what would your ideal summer be as well? And people saying don't want Mbappe, another Ronaldo. I mean, yeah, tell me what your ideal summer is, because some people saying let's get Mbappe. Some people saying no, we want to move away from those kind of signings as well. I'm interested to see who you'd sign in the summer if you could sign anyone. But for me, Osimhen would be the dream number 9 for me. He would be brilliant. I think Osimhen and midfielder would be the two my priorities for me. I'd even look at getting 2 midfielders in, maybe someone like Moises Caicedo to potentially be a long-term Casemiro backup, because we've seen the difference between United when we have one game without Casemiro as well. And wouldn't have even gotten their goal if Bruno didn't lose his head for a moment. I have to say, I do think the penalty fucking was soft on Bruno the other day, really was. But I have to say, I saw a lot of fans slander Bruno yesterday. And he missed the sitter and he gave away a penalty. But the second half, he was magnificent. He was like Fred, Bruno. To be fair, the only player that was really good in the first half was Martinez. Varane was solid, but the only player in that first half that was any good was Martinez. Martinez was solid because Barcelona were putting us under the press. Barcelona were really pressing us. And Martinez is our only defender that's very competent and confident at playing out from the back, which is why I think he subbed off Wan-Bissaka for Delo. Because we weren't the best at playing out from the back under the press, but Martinez is. And I thought in that first half, Martinez was everywhere. Martinez was the best player of the first half. I thought Fred and Bruno were really poor in that first half. I thought that Vegas was poor. I think Rashford and Sancho were quiet. We just weren't playing with the ball right. But that second half, I thought Bruno was excellent. Just like Fred, I thought Bruno was absolutely excellent. Got the assist, was involved in both goals, made things happen, booted the ball at Frenkie de Jong. Couldn't ask for much more from Bruno in the second half, but he did have a poor half. But I see people slandering Bruno all over Twitter yesterday, and I just think that Bruno's become really overhated. He's like De Gea. Bruno and De Gea are two players that have become very overhated in this fan base of, yes, De Gea's distribution was shocking yesterday. Yes, De Gea almost gave the ball away, but every game he pulls a world of the same. I do think that Ten Hag will be looking at potentially a new goalkeeper, but like Ten Hag plays Bruno and gives Bruno captaincy for a reason, because Bruno is a good player. And I see him get so much stick, and it does wind me up, if I'm being honest as well. Barcelona never looked like scoring in the second half. They didn't until they had that chance that Varane cleared off the line as well. The Glazers have to sell 100% as well. And a win for Man United is a win for the PL. I would have cheered for other teams against Barca too. Too bad Liverpool was a letdown. I mean, Man United showing Liverpool exactly how you win a European tie at home, because Liverpool getting battered 5-2 by Real Madrid. Man United had to show Liverpool how it was done. Bish, bash, bosh, Manchester United. But you know what? Against Barcelona, I would want Chelsea to beat them. I'd want Spurs to beat them. I'd want Arsenal to beat them. I'd want Liverpool to beat Barcelona. Maybe not City, because just don't want City to ever win a European trophy so we can bully them on them. But Barcelona are one of those teams where they've just, a lot of our rivals were behind United tonight, because they're one of those teams where they've just been a bit cheaty. They've just been a bit dodgy in Europe. And I would back I don't like Barcelona. I never have. I prefer Real Madrid, but I don't like either of them. Just because they ruined my childhood by absolutely outplaying us in that Champions League final. They were fucking incredible. Ruined my childhood, Barcelona, and they've had so many questionable refereeing decisions. I still to this day won't forget that Champions League final against Barcelona as well. I don't know why the Glazers would even think and stay. Our value and revenue will plateau or even decrease going forward if they stay. Exactly. As I said, business suicide if the Glazers stay as well. And Gaz says, smash the like button for Alice people as well. I think Qatar will play 6 billion. I think Qatar will up their bid, but I don't know if Qatar will go all the way up to 6 billion, even though they can, because they're smart businessmen. And they might just say to the Glazers, well, realistically, look at the debt United. And they might generally just say to the Glazers, look at the debt Manchester United is in. Why do you expect us to give you 6 billion when you've got to pay this much debt? We've got to do this to the stadium and all of that as well. Keep smashing the likes, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. I'm so behind on the live chat, so I do apologise that it's taken me like 5 minutes to read out people's messages all season. Bruno got the assist. I thought Bruno was fantastic. I got that pissed celebrating. I forgot I watched the game. Hopefully Sunday the same. Hopefully, I tell you what, this is a massive game. I want to talk about Sunday's game. I want to go into Sunday's game, because Sunday's game is going to be absolutely massive, because Manchester United and Newcastle are two teams that haven't won a trophy in long. The odds are sort of favouring Manchester United here, as you can see. United have got better head-to-head stats, but it's a difficult one, because United are in better form than Newcastle going into this. As you can see, Newcastle loss, draw, win, draw. United win, draw, win. United are in better form going into this, but Newcastle haven't won a trophy. And Newcastle are a massive club in 60 odd years. It's been so long since Newcastle have won a trophy. It's been so long since United have won a trophy that Newcastle are going to be up for it. Eddie Howe reportedly put on the board in November that this is how long it was since Newcastle last won a trophy, just to remind them how much this is. And I think Newcastle will be up for it, and I think this will be a very, very difficult game as well. But anyway, I want to show you some other things as well before we talk about Newcastle, because I want to talk about, I'm going to ask you a question. What would you do if we don't have Rashford for Newcastle? That is my question. What would you do if you don't have Rashford for Newcastle? Who do you play up front? Who's your front three? I think that's something to bear in mind. But I wanted to talk about Lisandro Martinez and his passing. As you can see here, under the press by his statistics, the amount of passes he makes is unbelievable. But what I really want to talk about Lisandro Martinez is just how good he is under the press. How good he is just in general. He wins everything. He was absolutely fantastic, and I was 100% blown away by Lisandro Martinez. Just such a freaking good signing as well. And we brought up this in my other thing. I was just trying to find something to put on the screen here, that Robin Van Persie, happy to see. We'll see what Ten Hag's doing, but I have to say, Ten Hag always says in interviews, we have to improve. Good is never good enough for Ten Hag. Every single interview, Ten Hag is going on saying we have to improve. We have to improve. We have to get better. We have to get better. We will go back to the Newcastle game in my lineup without Rashford as well. But 100%. And just seeing a chat as well. Someone said here, I interacted on another fan channel 2 days ago, and one of the guests who sits on the Must committee is convinced that the Glazers will release voting shares to fans, and I told him he was mad. That's interesting. That's interesting. We'll have to see. We'll have to see where that goes as well. And Anthony's transformation to next level talent will take 1.5 to 2 years. And Anthony's 23 today. Happy birthday to Anthony. Thought Anthony was absolutely excellent last night. I said it in my match reaction. I said it in my 5 things we learned. I thought when Anthony came on, is excellent. He put in a defensive shift. What Anthony does is Anthony really helps Man United hold the width. I think as a system player, Anthony's absolutely fantastic. And I think at 23 years of age, he will continue to grow. I think once Anthony's got that United side that's established, that he's playing with each week, I think that it'll be a good signing. And sometimes I look at Anthony and he runs over the ball and he loses the ball stupidly. But we cannot deny there's a good player in Anthony. He scores goals. He pops up at big moments. You know, he scored a brilliant goal. It was a volley, well-taken goal. He completely changed the game and we got better when Anthony's on the pitch. And yes, Anthony isn't this like Rashford kind of player that you watch him like, wow, what a goal, fantastic. Like Anthony isn't like that. But when you watch Anthony, you see like when we don't like his influence on the team. He's very much a player that influences the way the rest of the team play. I generally believe that when we had Anthony out missing for a little bit, we noticed it because his role on that right-hand side, defending, tracking back, holding the width, really shapes the team and how we play. And I do think as a team, when Anthony doesn't play, the rest of the players play bad. I think Anthony, and I say the same with Martial as well. I think there's certain players at United that are maybe not the best individual, but the team play better when they play. I've always said I think although Rashford's been absolutely unstoppable about Martial, Rashford was always at his best when him and Martial were linking up. And I generally believe that United are a little bit better when Anthony's on the pitch. And maybe that's just me. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Fred. I mean, we have to talk about Fred. He was literally 2 players yesterday. My mouth is so dry today. So dry, so I'm just taking some water as well. But Fred in the first half was crap. Fred in the second half was fantastic. He found his passport at half-time. Harsh Bruno puts work in, one of the best squad players. Yeah, Bruno absolutely puts a shift in as well. People talking about Garnacho up front. I mean, what do we do? What do we do? Because it's Weghorst up front or no one really if Rashford's out as well. Alice, what do you think of Gravenberch to Casemiro backup? I don't think he's a DM, but I think he'd be good as a CM to play alongside Casemiro. For Casemiro backup, I think we go to South America and we find an understudy like Benfica did with Enzo Fernandez. Or we go and look at someone like Moises Caicedo, who Brighton will want quite a bit of money for. People saying Garnacho, Weghorst, Anthony front three, potentially. We could do Bruno false 9 maybe as well. It'll be interesting to see what we do against Newcastle if we don't have Rashford as well. And Anthony just needs to stay fit, missing a bit of time here and there with these knocks. Yeah, I mean, Anthony luckily isn't Anthony Martial of injuries, but it's getting frustrating as well. And hopefully we get a full sale and we get Qatari, and we will get some takeover news coming out soon. It's obviously gone quiet, but I generally believe to this day, if Qatar are the new owners, Ten Hag will be unstoppable. That's generally my belief. That's what we're talking about in today's video. Qatar new owners and Ten Hag is unstoppable for me. He will be. You could get Jong, you could get Osimhen, you could get what we wanted in the summer. You'd get the backing. Generally think that we are, some good owners away from doing something crazy, because Ten Hag is definitely the best manager we've had post Sir Alex Ferguson. What Ten Hag does is just absolutely fantastic, absolutely incredible. How good he's been, the way we play, the way he's changed the mentality of the dressing room, the personality. He's been absolutely incredible as well. Anthony backtracks and gives balance to the team 100%. People forget that Anthony puts in a defensive shift as well. And Anthony always makes an impact and allows Bruno to play through the middle where he was most effective. Exactly. I'm kind of bored of this Sancho 10 experiment. I don't mind Sancho and Bruno swapping roles, but I think Bruno needs to be at least in the 10 role for 70% of the game, because I think Bruno just has more impact as well in the 10 role as well. Palestri is underrated. I would think about playing Palestri, but I think in a cup final, starting Palestri is a massive, massive risk as well. And that's up to Ten Hag if he wants to take those kind of risks as well. Garnacho at the moment is an impact player, and I think that's the same with Palestri. Someone said that Garnacho an impact player, because I've always said this. I think Garnacho, when he starts, isn't as good as when he comes on as a sub. I have to say, Garnacho has been absolutely fantastic coming off the bench. You know, Man City, I think, did he get the assist versus Man City? Fulham gets the winning goal. I think even versus, was it Leeds when he came off the bench? Who was it? When he came off the bench against Leeds, he was fantastic. There's been 4 or 5 occasions where Garnacho's come off the bench, been fantastic, got a goal or assist, or even versus Palace when we beat them 2-1. He was involved in the build-up to that goal and he was integral. You know, he's been involved in goals. But Garnacho coming off the bench has been fantastic. And I think with Garnacho, he's obviously 18, he's young, he's rusty. You've got to mould him into certain games. But I think Garnacho, for me, is one of those players where Ten Hag knows what Garnacho does best, and that is being direct, running in behind, getting at players. I think if you're Ten Hag, you play a game, and if you go, we need something from one of my wingers, I need my wingers to run in behind, challenge them, get the ball in the box. I think you bring Garnacho on and he makes an impact. And when they've got a slow defence, Garnacho is absolutely lethal. And I have to say, Garnacho as an impact sub has been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, hasn't he? Bruno kicking the ball at Jong was my favourite part yesterday. And Wan-Bissaka and Delo did not convince me last night. Dumfries to United next. Let me know in the chat. Do you think we need a right back? Because I think we need a striker and a midfielder as number 1 and number 2 priority. And then you could argue goalkeeper, right back, another centre back for depth, a DM for Casemiro depth. Like, what's your third priority? I think number 1 is striker, number 2 is midfielder. But what is your third priority? People, we do have 600 people watching today's live stream. So if you have not already, please do smash that like button. And of course, go ahead and subscribe down below to Manchester United if you're new. If you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more, make sure you're subscribed. I go live pretty much every single evening on the channel, keeping you up to date with all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news stories. I do watch-alongs to every game. I do match reactions. I do news updates. I do discussion videos and more. So do go subscribe for that as well. And Erik Ten Hag will take this club forward like Sir Alex Ferguson did. Give him the infrastructure and he will make sure this club is unbeatable for years to come, says Paul Greaves. And I agree, 100% agree with this. I generally think give Ten Hag what he wants and he will be absolutely unstoppable. Daniel says Garnacho and Antony could provide brilliant competition in left wing spots with Sancho and Pellistri in right wing spots. 100%. I mean, we've actually, weirdly, if our youth reaches its potential and if Sancho plays at his best, if Antony finds his Ajax form, if Garnacho and Pellistri reach their potential, if Ahmed reach their potential, and Rashford continues playing at his best, we've actually got unbelievable wing options at United. It's just we need that striker. Garnacho, perfect as a sub, coming against tired legs and match opening up. Yeah, he's massively an impact player. And I think Garnacho will be a bit like Rashford, where I think in Rashford's early days, he kind of ended up being a sub a lot more than he started in his first few years, and he kind of ended up being an impact sub. And then I think once Rashford got to 21 and Ollie came in, he really started to start more. And I think Garnacho will be an impact player. And then I think as he gets more mature, as he kind of develops his game, gets a bit more strength, as he evolves a bit, I then see Garnacho starting more. I do think that Garnacho has the ceiling to potentially go to the top. He's one of those youngsters that just brings something out. He's just something special about him. You know, every now and then we get a few youngsters like Alanga who kind of come through. They have 1 or 2 good games, but we're not quite sure. You know, and then we get youngsters like Greenwood that we are sure that he is going to go to the top. And I think Garnacho reminds me of when Greenwood came through, reminds me of when Rashford came through. Once they've played like a good 10 games for United, you're like, this guy's got something in him. This guy's capable of going far as well. I think Ten Hag is playing mind games with the Rashford injury. Rashford is on, and I'm hoping that. The thing is, I'm hoping that it's mind games, but you just don't know. Ten Hag's not sure. I could see maybe Rashford on the bench. And then he comes on if we need him and he's maybe got a knock. I'm hoping with Rashford it's a dead leg like last time when he came off limping. That's what I'm hoping as well. Third priority for me is the centre-back, Amodi, pacey type to rotate with Varane. I think that Kim Min-jae will be a very good one. I think Maguire will go in the summer as well. So I do think a third centre-back is kind of needed as Varane rotation. Whether we're going for Timber, whether we're going for Kim Min-jae, it'll be interesting to see who United go in for. I mean, if you guys signed a centre-back, who would you sign? Let me know in the chat as well. And what's the latest on Man United owners? That they're all preparing the second bid. They're all looking at the financials and there'll kind of be a second bidding round next week. And I'm sure as of next week, we'll kind of get updates on the second bidding round. I have to say, I don't know if you guys saw it, but what I found really funny yesterday was when they got in the fight after Bruno kicked the ball at Jong, the Casemiro just stood there. I'm not going to lie, it really made me laugh when I just see Casemiro stood there. Everyone's going in and at Bruno, like getting mad at Bruno for kicking the ball at Jong. And bear in mind, Rafinha had his arms on someone's hand. Rafinha had his hands on someone's neck. That's exactly what Casemiro did. Obviously, VAR didn't look at it because it's only United that send players off. But I loved how Casemiro just stood there and was like, you know what? I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting involved. Yeah. I don't know if you know who Gemma Collins is. But there, there's that meme where she's just like, I'm not getting involved. That, for me, someone needs to edit that and just put that over the clip of Casemiro just kind of standing there looking at the fight, like, because he was like, no, not getting involved at all as well. People saying they take Timber. I mean, I'll definitely take Timber. I don't think he's been as good at Ajax this season, but he's such a young player that can be developed. The only question with Timber is his height. And obviously, I'm not saying that height matters because Lisandro Martinez is a tank, but potentially having two small centre-backs, could that catch you up? I think you need one physical and I think one small. I think two small potentially is a risk. But as Lisandro Martinez has proven, height means nothing. He's basically gone to Jamie Carragher. Sit the fuck down. My height means nothing as well. Gaming Studio says we need a new goalkeeper that can save penalties. Not many keepers can. I don't have an issue with De Gea. And I think that he's overhated in his fan base. However, I do think when we're under the press by teams like Barcelona, his distribution can cost us. It did almost cost us. I think that, long term, a new goalkeeper is needed to suit Ten Hag's philosophy. But I'm happy to have De Gea for another season, give him room to improve. He always makes a world of a save each game to keep us in games and focus on midfield and striker first. And then next season, look at replacing De Gea because it's very hard to replace a goalkeeper. And everyone's like, oh, we need to get a new goalkeeper ASAP. And I think that potentially the way Ten Hag wants to play, De Gea might start to cost us in a sense under the press, but I just think there's so much. I think striker and midfielder is still much more bigger priority than goalkeeper, and I think that De Gea is underhated by fans because he still makes a world of a save every single game as well. And Dalot and Wan-Bissaka are perfect for the right back position, both being something different. I think they're both good options, but are they both good backup options? If we want to win a league title, are they going to be good enough to start is the question. Do you look at someone like Jurrien Timber that could maybe fill in at right back as well? Or maybe people, I mean, for me, someone talked about I would get Jurrien Timber's twin brother as a backup for Casemiro Feyenoord at top of the Dutch league, and he is crucial. For me, my summer transfer window would be going all out for Victor Osimhen or Kane if Ten Hag wants Kane. Basically, going all out for the striker Ten Hag wants, which I believe is Osimhen or Kane. Then I'd be looking to get a midfielder in, like I would have loved Enzo Fernandez when he's gone, like Frenkie de Jong, like Maxim Qatari of that type that would play in the Eriksen role. And then I'd be looking at a young understudy from a European league, as someone's mentioned, backup for Casemiro from Feyenoord, Timber's twin, or go into South America looking at that understudy for Casemiro, and then potentially looking at a defender, whether it be right back, whether it be centre back, just to add to that area there as well. Do you wish Pellistri could get more minutes to me? He has a lot of potential. 100%. I want to see Pellistri play a lot more. I do think that he's a good player there. And whenever we've seen Pellistri play, he's been good. And I think he'll probably go out on loan. I think he'll be frustrated. But I think, there's a good player in Pellistri. And I'd like to see him get more minutes. I think that Pellistri's better than Elanga for me. And I would like to see Pellistri get the opportunities that maybe Elanga got as well. But Garnacho's still young. Maybe Gnabry in the summer window can make a different option. Potentially, I don't think winger is top of the list of my priorities. But we are kind of, Sancho and Anthony don't find their best form, but I think Anthony's been good lately. I think Sancho's been good lately. But if they did have a drop in form, potentially you could be saying we need a winger as well. Kim Min-jae of Southampton go down, perhaps Bella Kotchap. That's a good shout, Bella Kotchap. You know what? There are some good players I would snap them up if teams went down, and Bella Kotchap is one of them. I think Wolves won't go down, but Mateus Nunes of Wolves would be a really good centre-mid signing to go next to Casemiro, in my opinion. Leicester obviously got some ballers if they go down. No one really at Everton that stands out for me, though. Everton are one that people think might go down, but there's not an Everton player that really sticks out for me. I don't particularly rate. I mean, Anthony Gordon's gone now, but I didn't rate him that highly as well. But yeah. Alice, do you think United will go for Moises Caicedo again? Potentially. I think that although I think Ten Hag's priority would be Frenkie de Jong or a player like Frenkie de Jong that can play next to Casemiro, I do think that McTominay will probably leave. We're rumoured that he's going to leave and United will get a midfielder. I think they would look at Caicedo. We were linked to him in the summer. We were linked to Caicedo in the summer. We were interested in signing Caicedo in the summer. So I 100% think we'll be linked with him again. But I do think Chelsea will look at it. I do think Arsenal will look at it. I do think there'll be competition. Like everyone. But I think if Chelsea don't get top four, I think if we get Qatari owners, I think that we're in a strong position to get who we want in the summer. Casemiro was looking at Ten Hag. Please let me, boss. Casemiro really wanted to get involved in that fight, but he didn't. And yeah, it was a soft penalty, 100%. And Kim Min-jae, 43 million release clause, I think is an absolute bargain. I mean, I would raid Napoli for Osimhen and Kim Min-jae. Napoli have honestly been one of the best teams in Europe this season. They have been unbelievable. When I watch Napoli play, it's not that they're winning the Serie A because the Serie A is a farmers' league. They're winning the Serie A because they're freaking unbelievable and they're playing unbelievable stuff. Napoli, I would raid them in the summer. Benfica really impressed me as well this season, and Napoli. There were two teams in the Champions League, and I thought, yeah, these teams have got something about them as well. UN says, I believe Harry Kane is a missing piece of the puzzle for us, and yeah, we need a right back. I mean, I think we need a striker. I think that Harry Kane might be what Ten Hag wants. I would go for Osimhen, but I can see that why Ten Hag would want Kane. You know, I think he's got 19 goals in the Premier League this season. The Spurs aren't at their best. You know, there's no denying that, yes, Harry Kane's getting on. Yes, he does get injured. And yes, you know, maybe Osimhen could be better long term. There's no denying that Harry Kane would be an absolutely phenomenal signing for United. It would be a Casemiro signing in the sense of he would be older, he'd be a bit more expensive. People would maybe think we overpay, but I do think that he would have an instant impact because he's a proven Premier League striker that's got ridiculous numbers for the last 7-8 seasons in a Spurs shirt where Spurs have been inconsistent and he's had not much service. And I think his all-round game, Harry Kane, is absolutely incredible as well. Keep smashing the likes, people, as well. Martinez was winning headers against Lewandowski. I thought Lewandowski, other than the penalty, was poor. I think Martinez defended so well. I think Martinez and Varane as a collective, we limited Barcelona to 0.4 non-penalty expected goals, you know, showing that we really limited this Barcelona side that's been winning every game in La Liga to not much. Yes, Barcelona didn't have Pedri. Yes, Barcelona didn't have Gavi. But United really caused them problems. 84 likes away from 300 likes. Can we hit 300 likes by the end of the live stream? Can we do something crazy like that as well? A lot of people say no to Kane, but I've always said that I personally, I don't have a problem with Kane, but Osimhen would be my number one. And Amad Diallo is definitely one for the future. Bellingham or De Jong? De Jong is better value for money. Bellingham's nowhere near worth the price. But I think that De Jong is more the profile that Ten Hag needs if you want someone to go next to Casemiro. But because Bellingham's so young, he could be developed into the profile that Ten Hag wants. And, you know, Bellingham, you could argue, has a high ceiling. It's a difficult one. But if it's De Jong 70 and Bellingham 120, I will go with De Jong for 70. But I don't like talking about De Jong because it just annoys me as well. I look at Ivan Toney as our second striker. I mean, Ivan Toney's a baller, but it's a risk with what's obviously going on behind the scenes. And Qatari said they would go for young players as well. That seems to be their transfer plan if they get United as well. If Foden's relationship with Pep really turns bad, I'd do a Tevez on them. I mean, I think Foden's overrated, but I also think that Foden's playing as a winger when his best player is central because of De Bruyne. Barella's a good shout. Barella's a good shout as well. But I would love to raid Man City with a player. If Man City lost one of their best players to United, I'd love that. I don't know if Man City would ever sell to us. Even if Foden was desperate for United and trying to force a move out, I don't think they'd want to sell him to us. I think he'd have to run down his contract as well. And just have to note, Napoli don't agree on a new deal with Kim Min-jae now. 100%. And I think they could do that with the way he's playing. And Caicedo or De Jong would definitely be both cheaper than Bellingham. I think we could get Caicedo and De Jong for the same price as Bellingham. And my thought process is, if it's just Jude Bellingham or it's Caicedo and De Jong, get Caicedo and De Jong. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get Caicedo and De Jong. Our chances of getting them, A, depend on qualifying for the Champions League, and B, depend if we get Qatar in. But for me, they would be brilliant as well. I think a young striker's one to look at, but because of where we're at and a desperate need for a striker to hit the ground running, we already need an established striker. And as that established striker, maybe next summer we look at a young striker to be the understudy as well. But I mean, this at the end of the day, all I want United to sign is the players that Ten Hag wants as well. And Man United under 21s in front versus Wolves under 21s. Our academy is playing well at the moment. It really, really is as well. I like Harry Kane, though. It's just having someone that's been good, that is good for a few more years. I do think that it depends on Harry Kane and how he ages as well. Someone said Foden is a rat. Bellingham has a lot in terms of midfield abilities if he cleans up his passing execution. Exactly. I think Bellingham's really good going forward. I just think, we need if he can improve his defensive game as well. Because I think Bellingham was better for England when he was almost playing in that Mount role rather than when he was playing next to Rice. And I think Bellingham's better, more advanced. And I think that he would be good next to Casemiro and he could be moulded into a deeper player. But I do think that De Jong is slightly more the profile that we need as well. Sancho was an ex-City player, but he went to Dortmund first, and he never really played for City, the first team, like Foden did, obviously. I tell you who I really like at Man City that's been stuck on the bench and not getting much game time is Julian Alvarez. I really wish we'd got Julian Alvarez. He's a really good World Cup, but he's barely featured at Man City. And I think sometimes I sometimes sit there and I think, you know what, he's just wasted at City. Obviously, I think, they've got Haaland. He's second to Haaland. He's not a winger. I think that if Julian Alvarez had waited and gone to Manchester United, I think it would have been better for him. Hence, I don't actually know if United would have paid the money for Julian Alvarez, because you know what we're like. But I think it would have been a really good move, Man United, for Julian Alvarez. And he's a player that I look at and I go, from Man City, he's a player I'd sign as well. I think people undervalue Frenkie de Jong. Would Barca sell him for anything under 70 million? I think when Barca were going to sell him to us, it was 68 million. I think that's when they were going to sell him to us. It was either 68 million, and I think it was rising to 72 or 73 in add-ons. It was around the 70 million euro mark. But I think you, at the end of the day, I think whatever happens, de Jong will be 50 million cheaper than Bellingham. And that's 50 million that could go on Moises Caicedo as well. And Rangnick wanted Alvarez. And what you have to say about Rangnick, whether he was the best manager or not, Rangnick's talent ID was elite. And Rangnick was like, Julian Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, we could get these two for less than 30 million. What did the Glazers do in January 2022? They took out 30 million in dividends when they could have spent 25 million on Julian Alvarez and Enzo Fernandez, because they didn't care. They didn't listen to Rangnick. And that is why we need new owners. That's why we'll never succeed with the Glazers, because when we do need investment in January, we're going to panic and get you out Weghorst on loan when all your rivals are actually investing. Arsenal signed, 2-3 players? Chelsea signed about 10 players. Liverpool signed Gakpo and spent. Spurs signed 2 players and spent. Everyone else is spending but United. Loan player, Weghorst, who's been decent. He's done a solid job, but he's not João Felix. He's not what Ten Hag originally wanted. And it just shows the level of standard between other clubs and us under the Glazers. And that's why I said, and that's what the title of this video is, if Qatar are new owners, Ten Hag's unstoppable. Qatar new owners, Ten Hag is unstoppable, because I generally think what he's doing right now with the squad he's got, with no backing in January, how well we're playing, what would he do if he got what he wanted, if he got his striker that he wanted? And for me, the Glazers won't do that, but Qatar will. Alvaro, Enzo, Caicedo, all very cheap. Like these 3 guys, Enzo, Caicedo, and Alvarez would have been less than 30 million for the 3 of them, and those 3 people would change the way United play. I still think we'd need a strike on top of Alvarez, just in case, but yeah. Did anyone see Toni Kroos moan about the Premier League and Casemiro's only move was for money? Toni Kroos just salty that the Premier League's better. Casemiro came out actually and said the Premier League's better than La Liga today. If I can find it. Casemiro said, I'm not trying to underestimate La Liga. I'll get this up on the screen so you can see this. La Liga just salty that the Premier League's better. There's more money in the Premier League, and now they want the Super League. That would mean that they'd share money with the Premier League. It was said here, Casemiro, I'm not trying to underestimate La Liga, but the games here are much more difficult. If there are more transitions, in Spain they usually prefer tiki-taka, as they say there. Here is more about transitions, more attacking moves. But he's basically saying the games in the Premier League are more difficult. And I think they are. I think the Premier League is turning into the Super League as well. Frenkie de Jong is pivotal to Barca. They aren't letting him go anytime soon. And I agree. I don't think Barca will want to let de Jong go. I don't think de Jong will want to leave, but it depends on Barca's financials. There's rumours about de Jong going, but look, we won't talk loads about de Jong unless a reliable source comes out as well. And hopefully we don't get clickbaited like Gerard Romero, like we did all summer, because he was really clickbaiting it with those de Jong stories, weren't he? And would you think Ten Hag would go for Lautaro Martinez as a new striker? We've not really been linked to him. He's one of those players that we get a link to from a tier 2 source every summer, but United have never been serious about. I think he'll probably be on the list, but the list as it stands is Goncalo Ramos, Benjamin Sesko, Ivan Toney, Vlahovic, and Harry Kane. And they're the 5 strikers that seem to be on the list. And then you hear a little bit about Martinez every now and then as a striker, Ivan Toney every now and then, but we've not heard a lot about him, and I do generally believe that if that was someone that Ten Hag wanted, we'd have been linked to him more. We're sending scouts to see Goncalo Ramos, and we're sending scouts to see Victor Osimhen, and we're sending scouts to watch Kane, and we've kept an eye on Sesko and inquired about Sesko, and we sent scouts to look at Vlahovic, and we've inquired about Vlahovic reportedly. We've not done that with Lautaro Martinez, so it's possible, but I think we'd have to wait and see till the summer. If we get linked to him a bit in the summer, you never know. Because if someone said to me a year ago, we're going to sign Casemiro, I'd be like, no. I'd be like, not at all. You know, I never thought, even in July, I didn't think we were going to sign Casemiro. It was only when we lost to Brentford, the Casemiro news came out, despite them having talks for a good month. You know, you never know. If Casemiro was never on that list, and that happened as well. I think Ivan Toney would be incredible signing, 100%. Victor Osimhen should be priority. Romana said that we sent scouts to watch Victor Osimhen today. But look, people, I'm going to wrap up today's live stream. It's more of a chit chat about the Barcelona game. It was more of a chit chat show than a news show, just talking about the Barcelona game, talking about what to expect if we get Qatar owners, how Ten Hag will be unstoppable as to Ten Hag owners, and more just talking about United in general and what Ten Hag's doing and potential players we could bring in. Tomorrow's live stream will be more of a news show than a chit chat show, but I thought it would just be good to talk about where United are at because it's really positive at the moment. We're playing really well. So I hope you liked today's video. Please do smash that like button. Of course, subscribe down below and share the video. I will be back tomorrow morning with a video and potentially a live stream in the evening if there is any good and relevant news. And remember, if I'm not live tomorrow evening, then my next live stream will be the Carabao Cup final. Big game. See you then, and bye.